Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Charlotte. Today, I'm your host, Alan, and we're delighted that you've chosen to join us on this awesome August morning. And one of the things that makes us happy is to connect to so many people through YouTube, Facebook, and all of our social media channels. So I encourage you to check out our website, cslcharlotte.org, put in a prayer request, and subscribe. We're always adding something new each and every week. So, who are we at CSL Charlotte? Well, we are a new thought community based on the science of mind. This science of mind philosophy was developed in the early 20th century by writer and lecturer Dr. Ernest Holmes. Dr. Holmes was a man on a mission. He combined truths from all the world's traditions and spiritual paths and created a fresh new way for us to look at ourselves and how we fit into this world. So, what do we do here at CSL Charlotte? Well, we are a diverse community that love and accept people just as they are. We are open and affirming. It doesn't matter your race, your sexual orientation, or any other physical distinctions, because we recognize that we are all individualized expressions of that divine light, and we are here to support each other. So one of the ways that we do that is we use many holy scriptures, such as the Bible, the Quran, Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, just to name a few examples. So why are we here, and why do we meet each week? Well, our vision is to live these truths so we can transform ourselves and inspire other people to level up their lives so we can create a much better world that works for everybody. So if that really interests you, then I encourage you to check out our weekly consciousness meetings that meet on Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And there we'll give you the tools to do just that. So before I pass the mic over to our wonderful guest speaker today, I would like to share a thought for the week. Where there is knowledge of the self, there is freedom. And that is a quote by Shiva Negi. And with that, I'll pass the mic over to our fabulous guest speaker today, Reverend Sonja Prince.
Thank you, Alan, and good morning, everyone. So good morning again, and welcome to CSL Charlotte. I am Reverend Sonja Prince, and like Alan said, we want to welcome you here. We're so glad that you could join us today. For those who are watching on live stream and on YouTube, thank you for being here. And for those who are in the Zoom room, thank you for being here, because without you, none of this would be possible. So again, CSL Charlotte is the Mind, Body, Spirit Center. And Reverend Roselle loves to say that, so you get it. CSL Charlotte is the mind, the body, spirit center. So you get what you need from participating and coming to see us today. So we always start with an opening prayer. And today, leading that prayer for us is none other than Maureen Thurston. So Maureen, after that, we will have our reading, but take it away, Maureen. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Sonja. So as we take a moment to just settle in to where we are in our individual homes and here bringing ourselves to this wonderful service online today, I know that each and every one of us are open to hear and to absorb and to take in what is ours to hear out of Reverend Sonja's message. I know that she is clear and precise in everything that she does. I know that each and every one of us are blessed on this beautiful day, and that everything within this service runs smoothly, easily, without any hiccups at all. I release, I let go, I let God, and know that it is already taking form, already manifesting here and now. And so all we can do is lock this in by simply saying, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. Now I'd like to introduce our reader. Our reader, again, is no stranger to CSL Charlotte, the Mind, Body, Spirit Center. Her name is Melissa Sprayer. She is now in, Melissa, correct my pronunciation of your last name if you need to. However, but she has a beautiful reading for us today. And I know she'll do it with grace and with ease. And after we listen to Melissa, I'm sorry, come in consciousness and listen to the song. The song is God and Everyone, and it's performed this morning by Lynn, Floyd, and Jamie Lula. So the reader, Melissa, please give us the reading. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Sonja. Yes, this morning it's a powerful talk, and the reading that I have this morning is actually on something that we all need to start with in order for the message to truly work its way through. And it is a powerful message as well. And our reading is on freedom. Freedom is the realization that everything and everybody gets to be exactly as they are. True freedom is a gift to everything and everybody. True freedom doesn't come from saying, I have attained enlightenment. True freedom is realizing, my God, there is nobody here to be enlightened. Until the whole world is free to agree with you or disagree with you, until you have given the whole world its freedom, you'll never have your own freedom. Ernest Holmes, who wrote Science of Mind, says freedom as spiritual state and universal law. Holmes teaches the limitations are self-imposed. True freedom is born when we shift perception, seeing bondage as signposts towards freedom. And he writes, the road to freedom lies through the intelligent use of nature's forces and laws. The law of mind is a natural law in the spiritual world. Freedom, he affirms, union with one life. Immunity to fear, unbounded love, no condemnation, no bondage, declaring daily, I am free. Through the mist of human fear, love gleams and points the way to freedom. Holmes stresses freedom is not license, but expression aligned with divine law, living fully without harming others. He calls it liberty without license. Rooted in cosmic unity and wisdom, not ego. Rumi, the famous author and mystic, on his take on freedom is Rumi invites the mystic liberation through poetic insights. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open, urging release from self-created confines? Stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion, awakening inner vastness and joy. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop, dissolving, limiting self-image. Therefore, freedom is deeply inner and spiritual, not about politics or external control. It carries responsibility, not license, guided by love, wisdom, or soul purpose. True liberation emerges when we go beyond self-limitation, fear, identity, separateness. Freedom is born of consciousness, aligned with divine law, dissolving fear and limitation through love. The Bible presents freedom as deliverance, found in truth and grace, calling us to serve love. Rumi offers mystic liberation, breaking ego prisons and recognizing the infinite presence of the soul, and this poetic expression of freedom through selflessness. So lose yourself, smash through the prison wall, embrace freedom. And so it is.
I see God in everyone. Thank you, Melissa, for the reading. It ties right into today's talk. So the theme of the talk today is about freedom. It's about recognition of the divine in yourself. And it's about freeing ourselves from bondage and recognizing the divine in others. So the talk title today is Seeing the Divine in Others. And it's taken from some core principles of science of mind. And it says to see God in others is to awaken to God in ourselves. And central CSL vision is the divine is present in everyone, no exceptions. So I have a question for you. Two questions, actually. The first question is, and you don't have to answer them right now. I just want you to contemplate them to yourself. And as I go through the talk, see where you can identify yourself or some things, identify some things that may need to be transformed and transmuted within you. So the first question is, what unconscious bias or judgment might obscure your ability to see the divine in someone challenging? Because I think we all can see the divine in someone who's beautiful. Like if you hear someone sing a beautiful song like the song that we just heard, you can see the divine in that and in those people, in that person. So think about that. And the second question is, if you believe that every person is an expression of God, the divine, how would that shift the way you respond to injustices? And we see a lot of that in the world, a lot of injustices. So just take those questions into your own heart and contemplate them. So this morning, I wanted to talk about seeing the divine in others, but I know it's an inside job because first we must recognize the divine within ourselves. So I saw this quote by Emperor Haile Selassie, and he had unwavering commitment to human dignity, and he addressed the UN in 1963, and he insisted that until discrimination, prejudice, and second-class citizenships are eradicated, peace remains out of reach. And he underscored that by saying every human being is sacred. Every human being is sacred. And so his vision insisted that equality and dignity be granted for all, not just a few, resonating deeply with the idea of the divine presence in everyone, which is the foundation of our teaching. Love and seeing the divine within everyone, especially ourselves, because we know without seeing it in ourselves, again, how can we see it in anyone else? And so I was reading these two books, well, actually one book, and I was listening to a podcast and a TED Talk. And the book that I'm reading is by Sabine Selassie, and it's called You Belong. And belonging is your truth. And we know that we are not separate. We never were, and we never will be. And since belonging is not merely desired, it is an inherent state of our being. And that comes from her book, You Belong by Sabine Selassie. She says you belong to everything, but first you must belong to yourself. Embracing this truth softens internal separation, and it dissolves hierarchies and invites kindness and connection. And I was listening to this TED Talk by Akoya Graham, and she did a one-woman show called Spirit Awakening, and it was so touching to me and so inspiration to me. She talked about living in Ghana. She talked about being so free and being able to run around, barefooted, being able to look up in the skies and the night sky and see beautiful, beautiful stars shining bright. And I remember as a child, I used to stay out. Well, we stayed out just long enough to see the stars, but not long enough to be in trouble with our parents because they always said, make sure you're inside before the street lights come on. So I wonder if you can remember that, if you can recall that in your childhood, staying outside and looking at the beautiful stars before we were indoctrinated into all these buildings that block out the sun and almost, block out the stars at night. We can't see them in our suburban penthouses or apartments and things like that. We rarely ever go outside. I don't know if that's true for you, but I know it's true for me. I rarely ever go outside like I did when I was a young child and gaze upon the stars. And so she talked about that. And she also talked about moving to the UK. And when she moved to the UK, things were different. Everyone was relegated to these little boxes. You had to wear shoes. You had to be in. You couldn't go visit your neighbor without making an appointment first. And she talked about that not being the case in Africa, being in a community where everyone looked the way she looked and she was accepted. And when she moved to the UK, that wasn't the case. People played with her hair and they wanted to know if her hair was snakes or ropes. She talked about having a body image problems, not wanting to pass any store windows or mirrors to look at her body because in the new town where she found herself, she was not accepted. And she said, it's easy to be accepted when everyone looks the way you look. But what about when we go out to the community at large? Can we see the divine in those people? Can we see the divine in ourselves? Can we accept ourselves or just who we are, divine beings of spirit? And so that inspired me. It really inspired me this week to think about and to bring forth the topic of seeing the divine in others, but first recognizing it in ourselves. Because I know in my case, there was a lot of things that I wasn't. I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I was this, that, whatever people want to label you. And that is simply not the case until we decide that we recognize those beautiful attributes that we have just the way we are. Then how can I see it in the next person that doesn't look like me, share the same culture as me, share the same values? And so she talked about having self-love. She had to begin to love herself just who she was, to get rid of all that idea in her head that she had come to when she moved to the UK. She felt separation, a sense of separation, a sense of not belonging. And I wondered, what if we were able to embrace ourselves for just who we were? What if we didn't let society tell us that we're less than, that we need to be more of this and less of this? What if we were able to see ourselves in the beautiful light we are, happy, healthy, loved, beautiful, divine expressions? What if we could see that in ourselves? And what if, in seeing it in ourselves, first, we could see it in others? My husband and I were having a conversation about our grandchildren, and they live with us, and their parents live here as well. But we go in the room sometimes and we say, oh, I don't think she should have said that, or I don't think she should have been punished for that. She's just expressing herself as a child. And he said to me, when our children were growing up, I had to have a certain order in the home. This is what is expected, and this is what you need to do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he reminded me of that. And he reminded me of when I went to see a therapist and they said, oh, my children they're doing this and they're doing that and they're not listening. And said, what if you had a calendar and you made out a calendar and you marked the great things that they did, the things that you liked, the things that they did correctly. If they picked up the trash without you asking, if they're cleaned their bathroom without you asking, what if they made a B instead of an A, but you still said, way to go? What if you didn't focus on the negative and you focus on the positive? Could you change their behavior in that way, telling them how great they are, telling them that they've done a good job? So when we were talking about that, I began to contemplate, what if the world didn't say that we were less than? What if the world did say that we're beautiful, that we're divine expressions, that we're creative, that we are just whatever we know that we are to be, instead of beating us down? What would our world look like? What would our world look like if we didn't allow one encounter to sway who we know we are to be? So instead of focusing on negativity in our society, what if our society focused on all the positive attributes that all us beautiful, wonderful, unique expressions of God bring to the table? How would that turn our society around? But I know that it's an inside job. It starts with ourselves. It starts in the home. It starts in the workplace. And the ripple effect, you've seen the ripples in a pond when you throw a stone in. It has a ripple effect. How would that change our society? And so what I decided to do is to tell you about 4 divine attributes of Brahma Vihara. And the first attribute is love. And it's I am love. And when I can recognize that I am love, I can recognize that you are love. And compassion. I am compassionate. May I ease suffering. We sing this song, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. So compassion. I am compassionate and may I ease suffering. And then there's joy, which is I rejoice in life and I celebrate joy. I like to laugh a lot. So to me, laughing is just, it makes me feel good. My cheeks light up and I feel so good inside. And a lot of people, they think, well, she certainly is silly, but I love to laugh. And I purposely, when I turn on the TV or turn on my social media, I look for funny things because it makes me feel so good. How many of us are laughing every day? How many of us are feeling that joy in our lives every day? And the last one is equanimity. I accept life. I am at peace. I surrender. So I want you to do this exercise. I'll send these to Alan later on, and maybe he can get these distributed. I want you to look in the mirror and say to yourself, I am love. I am compassionate. I rejoice in my life, and I accept life, and I am at peace. And I wonder if you would do that exercise for a week and write down how you feel at the end of that week and how that changed your outlook on when you're out in public and the way you see other people. What if someone gave them an exercise to look in the mirror and say to themselves, I am love. I am compassion. I rejoice in life. And I accept life. I am at peace. How would that change them? So I wanted to talk about that, and I want to talk about recalibrating what we may see when we look in the mirror. I don't know what you see. I know what I see when I look in the mirror. And so begin to, if there's any negative thoughts or opinions, begin to recalibrate that with those 4. I am love. With those 4. And I'll send that to Alan and he can distribute it. We're rewriting patterns. We're getting rid of what people said about us. And we're embracing what we are. The Science of Mind teaches says for us to affirm, I am divine. And it aligns with a higher consciousness and opens us up to a higher consciousness, a higher way of being, so that we can truly see love, compassion, joy, and equanimity within ourselves, reflected within ourselves, and then passed on to others. So I have an affirmation today, and it's simple. You are an expression of the divine. And turn that around and say that to yourself. I am an expression of the divine. And you can go on to say, and when I recognize it in myself, I can recognize it in others. So let's reflect on what we've been telling ourselves, not what the world is telling us. Don't reflect on that, but reflect on the truth of your being, the truth of who you are, a beautiful divine emanation of spirit, uniquely beautiful, just the way you are. Thank you. And so it is. Thank you. Love has a bigger table when we can accept ourselves, and then we can invite others to the table, to be seated around the beautiful table that is laid out with all the beauty, whatever's on it, it's all good. But we can only do that when we recognize it within ourselves. Stop hiding behind what someone else said about you, said about me, and embrace the beauty of God that is within. There's no better feeling. There's no better feeling. So once we can do that, we can change our world. We can change our world. We can make a shift in our world. But the shift starts first in our own being. So to wrap up, what do we know? We know that freedom comes with the recognition of the divine in ourselves. And when we recognize that freedom and that divine in ourselves, thereby we can recognize it in other people. So this week, you are invited to do some mirror work. Look in the mirror at yourself, your beautiful self, and say, because I see the divine in me, now I look at you, whoever that you is, and see it in you. So your homework is mirror affirmation. Look in the mirror and say, because I see the divine in me, myself, now I look at you and see the divine in you. So now I'd like to bring back our closing prayer by Emeritus Practitioner Maureen Thurston. And then there is another song that you'll be listening to, whatever that order that comes in. And I'd like to wish you all a happy Sunday. So let's go to that. There's room for everyone in this big, beautiful family we have, human family, spiritual family. However you choose to look at it, we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience in these human bodies. So there's room for everyone. So I'd like to introduce again our emeritus practitioner, Maureen Thurston, who will close us out with a beautiful closing prayer.
Thank you. So once again, I am filled with joy and with the lightness of my being at this moment in time from this incredible service that we've experienced here this morning. And as we go into the rest of our day and into this beautiful week, I know that we carry the message with us, and it fuels us on to be and to participate at a different level. One where we come from the heart and try and be of service somewhere. As I release and I let go and I let God, I know that it is done, that we are each blessed on our pathway as we leave here today. And we can lock this in together by just simply saying, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone who participated on the platform this morning, because without you, we would not have a service. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Emeritus Practitioner Maureen. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, me. Thank you for all those people that are listening in the Zoom room and on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here, and have a beautiful, happy Sunday, remembering that you are a divine expression of spirit. Thank you. Happy Sunday.